She has a, oh my gosh. It scared the shit out of me. Hey guys, it's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you why you should pick up Unblemished by Sarah Ella. In Unblemished, we follow a 17-year-old girl named Eliana whose mother has just recently passed away. As a result of her mother's death, Eliana is left in the care of this boy named Joshua. However, Joshua seems to be a really reluctant guardian. Eliana also runs into this man in a long dark trench coat on her walk from her apartment one night. She also runs into a stranger in Central Park who is a little bit more than what he may seem. Both these characters seem to be involved in her life in ways that she doesn't really quite understand. She was born with a very large birthmark that covers the majority of one side of her face, and as a result of that, she finds herself really uncomfortable in her own skin. However, it turns out that Eliana's birthmark is not just a birthmark, but it is this more mystical marking that involves the salvation of this other world. So like I mentioned, enter this mysterious man in a trench coat, this reluctant guardian, and this hooded figure in Central Park, and you are in for a crazy ride. So that is a synopsis of Unblemished by Sarah Ella. Now let me tell you 5 things that I really loved about this book. And the first thing is Eliana as a character. She has this wonderful balance of spunk and sarcasm and wit with this more vulnerable, self-conscious side. She's not this hard-ass character who's super fierce and has this to hell with it attitude, something similar to Celaena Sardothien. Whereas Eliana has this more quiet perseverance, this more quiet fierceness. She's a bit more reserved, and as a result of that, she has this powerful fierceness from within. And I think because she does have these insecurities, especially the ones surrounding the birthmark on her face, she's a much more relatable character. Because as much as I love Celaena, I can't relate to her on many levels because I'm not an assassin. I'm not the best in the world at anything. I really liked that balance of the two sides of her character. And on top of that, she responds to situations very much like how I feel I would respond to situations. The way that she worded her sentences felt very real to me, like an actual person would say those lines. It just felt really natural, and I really liked that she felt so relatable and so real. My second favorite thing about this novel was the parallel universe type situation. Rather than a lot of other urban fantasies like The Mortal Instruments or Harry Potter, where there is a world hidden within our own and humans are just oblivious to it, this one featured an entirely alternate world, something that you had to travel to. So it felt like an urban fantasy mixed with a high fantasy. I liked the relatability of having it being in our world. In Reflection 3, Reflection 2 felt really high fantasy to me. There were a lot of mystical creatures, fantastical elements that you might find in a true fantasy series. I really liked that aspect of it. I wasn't expecting that, and I thought it was incredibly unique. Another part about this world that I really enjoyed were these superpowers. I had not expected to go into this book with characters who had superpowers, and there are 7, I believe, different types of callings that you can fall into, and then your powers can range a little bit within each calling. So you could be somebody who changed their appearance at will, or people who can change into animals, or people who have healing abilities or mind control abilities. That was so unexpected. I was not thinking I was going to have a powers book, and that is one of my buzzwords. If I hear that people have these special abilities and powers, I'm there for it. Like, I'm sold. I'm reading the book. If you're a person who really enjoys power books and fantasy books, this is a great blend of the two. My third favorite thing about this book, which were the fairy tale vibes. If you are a fan of Once Upon a Time, I can't see how you wouldn't enjoy this. It definitely had a lot of similar tropes and themes to Once Upon a Time. Being that it has this fairy tale vibe to it, you get a lot of themes of light versus darkness and true love's kiss, which are all common themes that you find in something like a fairy tale. I know how much Sarah Ella enjoys fairy tales and Disney and retelling, and you could really tell that she pulled and played with those ideas and put them into her own creative fairy tales in a way. It wasn't like a retelling, but it definitely felt very fairy tale-ish. And my fourth favorite thing about this book was one of the characters named Kai. I really liked Kai. One of those characters that has a really tragic backstory, and I love characters that are kind of snarky and sassy, but they don't necessarily behave like jerks. And Kai is this perfect blend of a asshole character, but not really. He has this underlining goodness to him, but he's been through some things, and some things have been taken out of his control that make him a little bit more rough than he might have been if he weren't in those circumstances. And I really like characters like this. Another really wonderful character like this is, ironically, Kai from Sweet Evil. He's a character who you can tell is inherently good because of how he was raised, and he's kind of become a bit cynical of the world. Kai from Unblemished is very similar. He is my precious baby cinnamon roll. I loved him. And my fifth favorite thing about Unblemished were all of the pop culture and music references. There were a plethora of them in this book, and I enjoyed every single one of them. I caught references to The Little Mermaid, to Wicked, to Harry Potter. I know Sarah Ella released a blog post that said that each act in the book was based on a song from a musical, and then the chapter titles within that act were song lyrics from a song that the act was named after. Does that make sense? For example, this one is titled I'm Not That Girl, which is a song from Wicked, and then each of the chapter titles are lyrics from that song. So Hands Touch is a snippet from that song, and Eyes Meet. So I thought that was super, super creative, and how much time that had to have taken for Sarah Ella to pick songs that represented those acts so well, and then to pick chapter headings within that act that reflected what was happening in that chapter. I thought it was a brilliant idea because there were so many references to Disney and to musicals and to music within this book. I felt like Sarah Ella just poured her essence into it, and that was probably the best part about this book, is when I read this, I felt Sarah Ella throughout every single page, and it was wonderful. It made it feel so much more sincere and heartfelt, knowing that I could feel Sarah Ella in it, and I loved that. But that's definitely one of my favorite parts about this book, and I'm hoping that that same usage of pop culture references is carried out throughout the rest of this trilogy. If you couldn't tell, I ended up really enjoying this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I'm highly anticipating the sequel. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I will talk to you very soon. Bye!